You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Haunted Histories with your host Penny G. Morgan, right here on Parasearch Radio.
Hello everybody, how are you? Welcome to another week another week and another episode of Haunted Histories with yours truly, Penny G. Morgan. I hope you're all well. Let me know what you've been up to in the chat room. It's looking a bit lonely in there at the moment. Well, I've not got a lot really to tell you. It's been a little bit quiet just recently. For anyone who is friends with me on Facebook, I got my car back today. Yes, I have my wheels again. My credit card is burning after how much it costs to get it through its MOT. But, you know, these things happen, I guess. What else? Well, I'm going on a walk around Chelmsford tomorrow night. I'm not actually conducting the walk. I'm a punter. And it's all about chilling tales of Chelmsford. So we'll have to see what that's like. 'Cause you never know, I might end up talking about that at some point as well. What else is there? Well, just the usual. You know where to catch all our shows. I hope you've been enjoying all the shows on Parasearch. I hope you've subscribed to YouTube. Hopefully we'll have a new competition for you very, very soon. So keep an eye on the Facebook page. And one important thing. Next week's Haunted Histories will be at the slightly earlier time of 8 o'clock. And we'll tell you all about that during the week, why that's happening. But it's at 8 o'clock next week. So don't forget. Don't forget. Worst thing for a radio presenter when your voice goes, "Hi, Mark." So, without much further ado, we've got a good 60 minutes of an interview with my wonderful guest to get through. So, let's start listening, eh? Well, hello everybody, and tonight's Haunted Histories, we're joined by another pretty well-known face in the UK. I suppose you could say paranormal groups. He's one of the co-owners of Haunted Houses, Paranormal Events, something like that. Hello, is that right, Chris?
Hello. Absolutely fine, yeah. Christopher when I'm naughty, but Chris is absolutely fine.
Hey.
Best behaviours. Yeah.
It's Mr. Christopher Chell, everybody, all the way from. I suppose you'd be classed as the Midlands in Stoke-on-Trent, aren't you?
Yeah, we're just on the border of West Midlands and North West, to be honest. We're a bit of a mixed identity.
I was chatting to one of my son's teachers is from Leicester, and he said I'm kind of sort of a bit of everything. And I went, well, you're north to where I am in Essex, and he said, yeah, but in the Midlands we're Southerners. He said we kind of don't belong anywhere, really.
That's very true. Yeah, I mean, as you're probably aware, we do events all over the country. So
yeah,
some of the guests call us Northerners, some of us call us Southerners.
Yeah, you're north to me, but saying that, my parents are from Lancashire and Yorkshire, so.
My mum's from Yorkshire as well. So yeah, I'm half Yorkshire.
Yeah, no, I'm half Northerner. That's why I say Castle rather than Castle, even though I've grown up in the south.
That's great. It is Castle at the end of the day, though. Anyone who says Castle, you're saying it wrong.
Well, I think it was. I was talking about Lancaster Castle. I think I was saying Lancaster Castle, and I was talking to Jeanette and Pamela Wally, and they were like, "Well, you're kind of saying it half right. You're not saying Lancaster." but it's Lancaster Castle. And I was like, yeah, I can't do both in the northern. I can do half of it and not sort of without thinking about it. But it's like when I've been talking to my dad, who hasn't lived up north for about 50 odd years, yet still says grass and maths and castle. And it kind of comes out after.
As it should be said. As it should.
That's exactly what he says. That's exactly what he says. He's the Yorkshireman, so, as he said, God's own country and all that stuff.
Well, it's a lovely part of the world, is Yorkshire.
It is. It's got a bit of everything, hasn't it?
Oh, it's immense, and the people there as well are absolutely lovely. So,
oh yeah,
as they are everywhere we go, really. But yeah, Yorkshire is a special place for me.
I think Yorkshire. I mean, this will make you laugh. I know we've been chatting for a while before we started recording, but my husband had never been up north. He's Essex, London boy.
Oh, that was a treat for him. Did he have his big coat with him as he went?
Well, he's used to London, so he's used to people not talking to each other and sort of you keep yourself to yourself and all of that. I'm not saying all parts of London are like that, but in general. And we'd gone up to we'd got a dog, and she was only 8-9 months old at the time. It's a long time ago now. And we'd sort of said that each year we'd have a week's holiday abroad somewhere and a week's holiday in the UK where the dog could have a holiday too.
That's nice, yeah.
And for the first one, we went up to this little tiny cottage just outside of Bridlington. And
I like that area. That's
it's
really
lovely,
nice.
isn't it? So north, sort of just into North Yorkshire.
Yeah, it's near Scarborough, Whitby, and Robin Hood's Bay.
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah.
And I've been going up there since I can remember with my parents because a lot of my relatives are up that side, sort of Gisborough, Middlesbrough, up round there.
Oh, yes.
And so I know the area reasonably well. And so we were up there and we had the dog with us, and she's a Labrador cross golden retriever, very cute dog, a very lovely dog as well. And we were standing in a queue for I think we were outside in a pub, or I can't remember what it was, but it was in a queue. Yeah. And this lady starts chatting to us. And she starts chatting to my husband. I can't quite remember what she was saying, but it was something along the lines of, what a gorgeous dog, what's her name, that kind of thing. And my husband turned round to me and he said, am I supposed to talk back?
Oh, for God's sake, yes.
And I just burst out laughing. I said, yes, you're allowed to talk back. And she turned around and she went, is this his first trip up north? And I went, yeah.
Now, it's a whole different world, isn't it, up north? Well, it's London, isn't it?
It's London that's a different world. Although I do find places like Norfolk and Cornwall can be a bit like that as well, a bit sort of you're a foreigner kind of thing in parts of it. But I grew up in Norfolk, so I've seen it. But
you try to break down the barriers, don't you, Fanny?
Yeah, it's a bit harder. It's a little bit harder. Now, 13 years on, I get him up to Yorkshire. I can't stop him. He is talking to everyone. He chats. He loves it now. In fact, we always say that we need to do a Yorkshire trip once a year so that we can recharge, because he just finds it so relaxing now up there. And
what do you do, B&B, or do you go camping, or caravan?
No, I'm a Leo. I don't do camping.
Do you? Oh.
No. I can do a caravan, but no, I like a sort of firmish roof.
There's nothing nicer than being in a tent.
Oh, God, no. Oh, hell
no.
No, I did that when I was a girl guide. No, I'm too old. Arthritis, all that kind of thing. My aunt lives in Gisborough.
You've got good tents these days where you don't have to crawl in them.
Don't.
You can actually
My husband will love you for saying that. He loves that sort of stuff. Oh, no. No,
yeah.
I like to do B&Bs, especially oldie worldy ones in pubs and things like that. I love that kind of thing. But I'm very lucky that one of my aunts lives in Gisborough. She's just on the edge of the Yorkshire Moors, and I can always go and stay with her. Or we've hired like sort of static caravans before with the kids, so they've got places. Yeah. So yeah, we do like our Yorkshire breaks to recharge. And
it's a good place to go. And are you like me when you're looking for B&Bs? Do you also look at the history behind them as well? Does that make me?
What do you reckon? What do you reckon?
I think so. Yes, I think it does. It's like I'm going to York. First place I'll check for availability is obviously going to be like the Golden Fleece.
Yeah. See, I've never stayed in the centre of York. I have never been able to afford to stay in the centre of York.
It's dear, isn't it? Oh wow, yeah.
And then with the children as well. They're only 8, 9, and 5. The fleece ain't gonna mean anything to them. But no,
it was if you get spooked.
I don't know. No, my two. They'd really start talking to whatever it was that was in the room.
Yeah, it's discussed. Yeah.
Yeah, well, four of us would, to be honest. You know, the digital recorder would come out, the K2 would come out, and be a full-on conversation, most likely. But no, I do look at the history of the places that I go to stay at as much as I can. But yeah, we love Yorkshire, and I introduced my husband to it, and now, in fact, this will make you laugh, Chris. We've already said that when we retire, and we don't need to be in the area that we're in now, is rather than going south, we're going to go north.
So instead of Brighton, you go into Bridlington, then, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. Whereas most people seem to retire south, we're going to go the other way because it's more relaxing.
Well, it's cheaper as well, isn't it?
There is that.
More for your money.
Oh yes. So he's actually completely in agreement with me, and a lot of his family, who are all sort of Essex and London, are like, "Why would you want to go up north? It's cold." And he went, "You put a jumper on. You've got to go up there.
I know.
You've got to go up there." So yeah. So he's definitely a quasi-northerner now.
And have you ever visited Staffordshire? My base.
I have.
Alton Towers. I mean, everyone comes to Alton Towers.
I've done Alton Towers. I did that. Him and I did that actually as it was my birthday present one year, like a belated birthday present. We did. He bought like one of those 48-hour tickets for Alton Towers for the two of us, and we stayed in this sort of old pub. It was lovely, and then did 2 days at Alton Towers.
Yeah.
I haven't actually done a proper history tour of your part of the world, though. If I'm honest, that's on my to-do list.
We've got some great venues here in Staffordshire.
Yeah, name some of them.
We've got Tucker Castle, which is very famous. We've got Four Crosses, which is iconic.
Yeah.
Obviously, Lord Green Hall, which we'll be talking about tonight. Alton Towers, a very, very famous venue for investigating, which unfortunately they've actually closed down now.
Oh, sad. I didn't think I'd seen any investigations advertised for there recently.
It's how I understand it. The closing down of the venue was to do with the scare mazes that they build. They're getting so much more complex now with the builds that they're doing. They don't like really breaking them down so much. So half of the house is actually still uses storage for all the parts and the pieces that they need. So unfortunately, I mean, we did the last ever investigation that was permitted in March 2017. Yeah, and it was the last ever one. But when we went, half the areas were closed down to what was normally available to us. So it was a bit of a shame, really. But it was nice to being a Staffordshire-based company doing the Staffordshire-based venue for the last time. It was really good.
I know the Four Crosses is on my to-do list. And I've actually got friends who live in Cannock who have we've got a bed whenever we want to do it. So I've got a lot of I like visiting places in the UK. This year's been a bit weird for things like, because we've just not been able to see in the diary, if that makes sense.
I know what you mean. You should see my calendar.
Work gets in the way.
End off in January at some stage.
Yeah. But it's I do love exploring the UK. We didn't do it this year, but last year we did quite a few sort of weekends away just to explore places in the UK that you can do for a long weekend, and it's just something a bit different. And we do enjoy doing that. So don't worry, I will let you know when I get to your neck of the woods.
We'll do, yeah. You can always pop in for a coffee, and if we're always investigating every weekend, so hopefully there's something local which you can...
I'm sure. So, how long has Haunted Houses been going?
Okay, so we were celebrating our 5th birthday on the 2nd of February next year, obviously. So we're all very excited about that one. And we've worked so hard to get where we are, as all companies do. It's not an easy job to do. Lots of stress, lots of peers, lots of tantrums, and a lot of sacrifices as well, isn't there? To get, so we've had 5 years of sacrifices of, socialising, family, as it is. So we'll be celebrating, letting our hair down, and we'll be doing hopefully a bit of disco dancing, I think we're doing.
Nice.
So we're going to be hiring a venue, to get something quite nice, nothing expensive, of course, but it'll be a nice venue with buffet and a disco, and then we're probably going to do a full team investigation somewhere in the UK. Because there's 28 of us now in the group, and
Wow.
so we've never all been in the same room at the same time. You know,
Oh, that'd
never
be amazing
ever
for you
happened.
all.
In the whole 5 years, we've never had the whole team together. So I think for the 5th birthday, I mean, is it going to happen? Someone's bound to have something pop up which is going to stop them joining. But, you know, we'll have a go at it.
Mm.
You know, great. Be absolutely fantastic.
Brilliant. Nice one.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your anniversary for February.
Thank you so much.
It isn't, and I know a lot of. I know you see all the detractors, trolls, whatever you want to call them, on social media when they're talking about the public groups. You know, they're not real investigations. They're not this. They're not that. And and I, as I say to a lot of them, I don't think these groups say they're real investigations in the sort of, you know, the professional, private.
Well, we're not.
sense.
We're very different. We work in the leisure and tourism trade.
Yeah.
You know, as an event company. But, you know, yeah. So we don't. I mean, we don't classify our team as paranormal investigators. We call our team event hosts. You know, because they're hosting an event. You know, so they've got skills. I mean, they do investigating as well. You know, they're not all out with us. They go out with other groups. They've been part of investigative teams themselves before, and they enjoy what they do, and they take it very, very seriously. You know, they're not here about faking activity or creating, you know, things that aren't quite true just to make things more exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how do you counter, Chris, those people that say, "Why do they charge so much money?"
Well, I don't really feel it's my place to counter them, really. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. No, so
Tactful. That's tactful.
Yeah, well, exactly. I understand the costs, as do other people in my position, my colleagues within the industry. Understand the costs involved, you know, with running these events. And they're not cheap, and people do not rake in money, as what people like to think. You know, they do a head count of how many there, then they work out how much, you know, we've charged per head, and so, oh God, no.
Yeah.
There's so much that goes into it. It's not just, you know, and people also have to understand as well. I sit at this desk 7 days a week, you know, from 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes earlier, right through till bedtime. You know, work is never done, and you know that's not cheap. I have bills to pay, same as everyone else. You know, so.
Hey, my response to people who say that is, if you don't want to pay it, no one's forcing you to go.
Yeah, well,
if you want to contact the venue in your own time and ask them how much it's going to cost, if you want to investigate there, fill your boots.
By all means, go for it.
I'm just saying it because I wanted to lead that into the fact that on your website you have your events that are under 30 quid that you can go on.
We do budget events, and we've got more of those coming up. And we're having a new website actually, which we've invested in. Yeah. And it's going to be much more user friendly, because the one we've got at the moment, Ben, our co-founder, he's developed that. It's a click and drop website, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to update it. Where we're having the new website, it's all going to be just so simple, just practically done for us. Yeah. So, but with that, we can, you know, we've got a specific area now again, which is for the budget events under £30. The Ford Green Hall, which is in Stoke-on-Trent, is one of the venues which, you know, we do 15 to 16 events there per year, and they're very, very popular, and they sell out months in advance. So we do like to offer our budget events as well, because we understand, you know, I'm not made of money, so if I'm going to go on an event, I will always look for the cheapest one.
I do to a point. I do. There's a few places I'd love to go, but I just can't.
You have your bucket list, don't you? You have your bucket list.
Yeah, I can't afford them. Yeah. I mean, Dover Castle down in Kent. Oh, I would love to investigate that. But I know how much that place costs to hire, so I know why the price is 90 quid normally per person. I can't afford that. One day, maybe. Because I know I'd love to investigate the Docks Museum in East London, and I did actually contact them and ask them how much it would cost. It was £3,500 to hire the venue. You can't. I mean, you could probably get 30 people, 40 people in there because it's so big, but even still, that's still going to be a lot of money, and then you've got to put your overheads on top.
Well, this is it. A lot.
Nobody's going to pay that, so
it's like, you know, we have to pay deposits on those as well, and we have to pay for those in advance. These venues and those prices, you know. So people have it every time you book a venue. You're not guaranteed to sell it. It's a risk. It's a big risk, and and every company occasionally has to cancel the odd event, and they lose the money they've invested. They lose the money they've invested for the marketing. That's not fun. They lose the money for the deposits. That's all, and all the time and effort they've taken to try and fill those places. So,
But you've got these 30 quid events. How many people would go out for the night and spend less than 30 quid on a night out in the town?
This is one thing we always say to people, actually, when they, well, I don't say it to them, but I probably keep it to myself, but, half the people that complain when you do a little Facebook stalk, as we all do, yes. You see all these pictures of them on nights out in the town, you're thinking, well, you're probably spending £70 there, you know what I mean? So,
and do you get free tea and coffee on your events, Chris?
You get free tea and coffee, hot chocolate. We also have
biscuits.
Like biscuits. We have the biscuits we do are like the Penguins, the club biscuits, things like
posh
that.
Ones then.
Oh yeah, they're all wrapped. We don't do the milk teas or anything because we like it to be individually wrapped, just so it's more hygienic.
Yeah.
And you also get crisps as well, and sometimes Ritz crackers, the individual packet ones and stuff.
What more did you want?
Yeah, hot chocolate. Yeah, we do a lot, and we do sell energy drinks as well.
Really?
So we sell them. We sell them at £1, even though it says the RRP on the can is more than that. We do sell them at £1 because we think energy is very important when investigating, and it's also important that you're awake driving home after
That's
a late night.
One. Yeah.
Yes. So that's always on my mind.
Yeah.
And the gas as well.
Yeah, when we drove home from Binbrook the other weekend, my husband drove. He prefers to drive, and I prefer to navigate. I don't mind driving. That's not. But we all love the navigators, don't we? He's a god awful navigator. So I tend to navigate. He drives, but I was in charge of feeding him Haribo and giving him sort of Pepsi Max to drink whilst we were driving to keep him going. So yeah. Well,
I mean, I'm a little sleepy as we talk, as I've already mentioned to you, because I've done 11 ghost hunts in the last 23 days now, so I'm starting to feel it a little bit. So we're almost at the end of October, so we've got a bit of holiday coming up this year. But I was driving home very late last night, and it's dangerous, So the windows open, radio loud, freezing cold.
Yeah.
But it has to be done, so... Yeah.
I have been known to pull into a service station when I haven't had to rush home and had a
we did that last night. Pulled into the station, and as soon as you're there, you feel, oh right, I'm fine, let's get started. As soon as you get back in that car, as soon as you're back in the car, it's like, oh god, it's worse than it was before. Your eyes shut in. It's just I'm always we do the energy drinks to help. With that a little bit.
Yeah, I sometimes think mainlining caffeine is the only way.
And a chatterbox next to you.
That helps. That's what I was doing. That's what I did to the husband. I thought I was putting AC/DC on the radio and singing along to it at the top of my voice so that he was getting really angry and annoyed, and that kept him awake. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I never sing to the radio. I'm not a singer. I don't sing the shout plus the radio. Well, last night I was singing.
Oh no, you see, I am.
I am. Stimulation's going.
Give me some good rock music and I'm away. Oh yeah, rock chick, definitely. But you're right. The energy thing and having the energy on investigations to get things to happen.
Yeah, it's very, very important. And it's always one of the key focuses we have at the very beginning of each ghost hunt event. We talk about energy a lot. We talk about positivity, and we talk about open-mindedness a lot. Because it's really important, and all our guys obviously are, they're so experienced that we can tell when the energy levels are dropping. So if you've got certain things in play which can, bring that energy up. Now we're not talking about obviously throwing stones or making any fake activity. They've got certain ways that can just get the guests a little bit more involved. Sometimes that would be what we call a human pendulum. Now I know a lot of teams probably go into the human pendulum when things aren't going so well, but everyone's got their own thoughts about that one. But
do you know what I think? Doing a human pendulum, even if it's not necessarily to get activity, it makes people laugh, and when you get people laughing, you get them more relaxed. And plus, I always work on the Monsters Inc. theory. Now, we were talking about kids' films just before we started recording.
Oh, we were, weren't we?
I'm not going to say which one it was, don't worry. But Monsters Inc.
Awful. Yeah.
Laughter produces more energy than fear.
We say this a lot.
And that's why I call it the Monsters Inc. theory. And that's why I try and make people laugh. I'm not cracking jokes whilst you're, being serious or what, but I will come out if people are sort of, I'm the same. If I feel the energy dipping, I tend to come out with a one-liner or...
What do you do? Yeah.
Yeah, to get people laughing, because the minute you relax, whoosh!
Exactly, and as I was mentioned to you before, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, innuendo comes out quite a lot during an investigation or an event. Don't know why it is. But, I mean, I attend other people's ghost hunts as well. Rosie and Stuart Dawson, who absolutely adore. I hope they're listening in.
Me too.
Simply Ghost Nights, yeah. So yeah, I attend quite a few of their events, and they're very much on the innuendo side of things as well, same as stuff. But you have your serious moments as well. But sometimes you just need to crack something out.
Well, I think so, and I say it's not being disrespectful. It's not taking seriously what you're doing. It's changing the atmosphere. So,
of course it is, and we always say to the guest as well: if you concentrate on the spirit, sometimes when you take your eye off it, that's when things start to happen or occur. And we can all relate to that as well. Where when you just take your time out a little bit.
No, I agree with you.
Think, you've ignored here, and when they'll want to bring your attention back to them.
Yeah, but it's an international thing that I've talked to so many different investigators all around the world, and we've all said the same thing. Isn't it funny how the minute you, like you said, take your eye off it and have a joke or start dancing like a mad person because it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you've overdosed on sugar, that kind of thing, stuff starts to happen.
Yes,
it does.
It's funny. It really is funny. Yeah. But it's not every time, is it? It's not guaranteed. No. It's not a guarantee to get the activity, but it does work. It's
a good bet. It is a good bet. Yeah.
Yes,
So if you could go anywhere in the world to investigate, do you have a bucket list? And if so, what's on it?
You know what? Yeah, I mean, I would love to do Queen Mary, just because I've been in California, isn't it? Yeah, because I do have a fascination with ships and that romantic side of the steamliners. So I'd love to go there not only for the investigating, but also just to view it as well. And yeah, I'm a big fan of castles. So anywhere, with France or Romania or even Germany, Bavaria, I'd love to do some castle venues, old houses as well. Like the old Bolling Hall in Bradford and Ormsmith in Bolton. Those types of venues as well, I really enjoy going. So I don't particularly have a particular venue which I'd say is my bucket list, but I have a genre of building. If you know what I mean, to go to.
Wouldn't Windsor Castle be good?
Do you know what? I think it could. I'm not going to say it overly excites me, really. Windsor Castle. I don't know why. But,
Windsor Castle.
I would go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'd like to see if Queen Victoria made an appearance.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah. It's like at Tutbury Castle when you get Mary Queen of Scots.
Ah.
Yeah.
But then she's got links to you. I mean, you do Jedburgh Castle on your list, don't you?
She's got links to that. In fact, you can go. There's so many places where Mary just pops up in the history of it. Yeah. So it's quite a running joke between me and my other half. To be honest, it's like Mary gets everywhere kind of thing. So yeah.
I'll tell you one I would love to do. That's not a million miles from you. Kenilworth.
Kenilworth. Yeah.
I love Kenilworth.
Not being myself, no.
I mean, it's only a ruins, but its history is phenomenal. There's, did he or did he not murder his wife so that he could try and marry Elizabeth? Who knows? But I just love that place.
I'm going to have to look into that one a little bit more because, as I mentioned, my style is not to look too much into history. Where yourself, I can see the benefit of doing so. I can, and some of my guys do, but my personal preference isn't. You see. So,
well, I won't tell you too much about Kenilworth then, but it is a very interesting one. The stuff that's happened there, and And I've been there a few times to sort of visit it as a punter, I suppose.
Yeah,
And it's one of those. Fountains Abbey is another one I'd love to be let loose in, with nobody else around, in Yorkshire.
Yeah,
that's another one I think's got some stuff going on there that
some of these disillusioned. I can never say the word. I say disillusioned monasteries, but that's not the right word. I know. But yeah,
disillusioned.
I always say
Disillusioned.
disillusioned. I always say disillusioned, which is not the right word.
I knew what you meant.
It is what it is. I knew I was saying it wrong. I just can't say this. Yeah. Anyway.
The old monasteries.
That's the one. Let's go with that. So some of these old monasteries, like there's one near us, called Croxton Abbey.
Right.
Fascinating places, absolutely amazing places, and But I always think as well, a lot of the places I actually want to get into are not English Heritage, they're National Trust. Which are very no. Even deny the knowledge of any paranormal activity taking place within any of the walls. If you go in and ask them, and ghost stories, there's always, quite a cold
Well, English
response.
Heritage, though, they embrace it, don't they? They embrace people booking their venues. National Trust, I did question this with them, because I actually know someone who works for them.
It's to do with the top, isn't it?
It's to do with the top, but it's also apparently to do with the fact that their budgets don't cater for overnight access, shall we say? And as I pointed out to this person who works for them, why don't they ask for the volunteers to do it? Because I know an awful lot of volunteers at places I've gone who are quite happy to supervise whilst these events are taking place because they're interested in what's happening. But apparently, but then again, the National Trust are making some very questionable decisions at the moment about their facilities, shall we say? That I'm not going to say on air because I don't want to risk being sued.
Of course, yeah.
But they're making, I'll tell you off air what I'm talking about, but they are making, they don't seem to see it as a money maker. Whereas English Heritage, I think, let their individual properties manage the books.
They certainly do, yeah. And, we've been to some great, Caldecott Castle was a fantastic one. Unfortunately now they do concentrate on, because they have to make money to keep going. And the wedding business is where the money is in it for a lot of these venues. Yeah. So, so they don't want to take that booking 6-7 months in advance for us, because they can get a short lead wedding come through, so.
Yeah, no, I know Highlands Hall's like that in Chelmsford. They will only do 1 or 2 investigations a year for that reason, because their bulk of their business is weddings and corporate functions.
Exactly, yeah. There's a lot of that going around.
Yeah.
But venues we have got are fantastic.
Yeah.
And we're really privileged to get into them all, aren't we? So.
You've got a great list. I mean, I saw Jedburgh, obviously, that I covered with Ryan Griffiths from The Hauntings the other week. You got The Village, that I'm actually going to be doing with the guy Lee Roberts and his crew next week, actually. I'm driving up there to do that one.
Yes.
And you've got, you've got like the Stoke ones, and you've got Ford Green Hall near you.
Certainly have. It's an amazing place. We love Ford Green Hall.
Well, you see, the interesting thing is, it's very hard to find any historical information on this place.
And that's how we like it.
Yeah, it doesn't make my job that easy, though, Chris. Come on. It's a bit like Halsham Hall up in Hull. Similar thing. Yeah. Very little information on it. But
this is it with Ford Green Hall, because, it was built in 1624.
Yeah.
This place, it was around when the Great Plague was taking place in 1665, and it was the Civil War was taking place, and this Ford Green Hall was still standing there, Oliver Cromwell was running around the country.
I thought you said you didn't do the history bit.
I don't, but I know a little bit of it, you see, because I've been there so many times.
See, the thing I like about it, and we'll talk about this a bit more, is the fact it is actually a social museum, isn't it? It shows what life was like in the 17th century, and
since the 1950s,
and that's one of these museums that it's fascinating from a paranormal perspective, because not only have you got the building and the history of the, if you like, the shell of the building and the land it's on, but artifacts that are in it, you don't know where they're from, a lot of them.
No, and they're not original to the house. The only actual item that I am aware of where it came from was a fireplace, which is in the parlour. and that was brought to the house from Alton Towers itself, and that was brought from 1950. So, well, this information has come from Chris, who is a fantastic guy who allows us access into the building, and obviously Pam as well, and it's all run by volunteers. So, but just to give them a shout out, so thank
definitely.
you. I would just like to say they do a wonderful job. They actually won the Queen's Award for voluntary services as well this year.
Wow.
So that's brilliant for them, and I'm so pleased for them. Yeah.
Good
but
for
yeah,
them.
so good guys, they're really good. So yeah, the fireplace that came from Alton Towers, because I don't know if you know about what happened with Alton Towers, why it's a shell now.
No, I don't know.
It's all to do with the fact that the family, lost money, and all the money was spent in courts trying to find the owner after the Earl had died.
Right.
All cousins and such. So they had to take all the fixtures and fittings and sell them to pay off some debts.
Right.
And the fireplace was obviously one of those, and Paul Green Hall bought it and installed it, but it was a little bit fancy. You see, there was lots of ornate decorations on there, and didn't quite fit in with the wall. So that's all on display. But the fireplace itself, is from that location, as all the furniture is. Furniture in there is ancient. It's really old, and it's important, obviously, that as we're running investigations within such a venue, that it is respected as such.
Yeah.
Which is. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the very hard thing for these kind of venues when they've got all this precious stuff. I know Strangers Hall in Norwich.
Yeah.
It's got stuff dating from the 1500s onwards, and they were very reluctant to allow a group in to investigate it, because when they allowed it 3 or 4 years ago, a Tudor chest got damaged when people put hot drinks on it. And as a historian myself, that really upset me, the thought that people could be that stupid that they would. And but then again, it didn't surprise me when they turned around and said, those are antique chairs, can you not sit in them, as someone was sitting in one, and they said, we just said those are antique chairs, that's why they've got pine cones on them, so you don't sit on them. And this woman still didn't get up, and then they had to say to her, that had a pine cone on it, get up. And she went, well, it's a chair, isn't it? Well, it's behind a barrier and it's got a pine cone on, that's why you don't sit on it. It's that kind of disregard for things that does make me sort of see red, shall I say.
It does, yeah, and you have to manage this before it happens. If you're taking gas, and all that furniture is your responsibility, it's been trusted on you. So it's very important that you lay down the rules of the building and the furniture before you even allow access to any of these rooms, which is what we do, and it's very important to us that takes place. And the guests respect that. If you let them know, they're not going to surround, they're not going to jump on the beds, and they don't.
No. I must admit, though, some of these old buildings I've been to, when you've got the big 4-poster bed and you can't... I almost do want to lie on it to see what happens.
Everyone wants to, yeah.
I do. Not from a disrespectful point. I want to lie there and see what happens. I can't help it. I don't. I resist. But there's a part of me that's just like, if no one's looking...
You just have to stay on the floor, Penny.
I do, and it's really frustrating. But, I do it because...
Well, you know what? I'm sure we can all relate to the fact when we do these investigations or events, there's always going to be areas that are out of bounds, aren't there? And it's always those that seem a little bit more intriguing than the areas you can go into.
Yeah.
But rules are rules. You follow them. But unfortunately, there are some out there that think they can break these rules, isn't there?
They do. But what they don't realise, Chris, and this is something I will say to people, when you go to some of these places, if you have got a genuine interest in it, not just a sort of, take a selfie to put on Instagram, say, oh, look what I'm standing next to, but a genuine interest. A lot of these volunteers are so proud of their places, they will take you into those no-go areas to show you it, to give you that added value. They won't take all 20 people in, but I've been so lucky in some of these places I've gone to visit when the people who run it, and it is normally volunteers, realise I have got a genuine fascination and love for it. They will take me in effect backstage, and I get to see stuff that a lot of people don't, because A, they don't think to ask, or B, they can tell they're not genuine. And the experiences you can get when you're a genuine person and are genuinely fascinated, are amazing.
It certainly is. For Green Hall, as example, as we're talking about it, that has a third floor that we don't take guests on. It does, yeah. But Chris, the guy that looks after the place, he has very kindly let us have a look at that area, and it's a fascinating area. And you can actually see the fabric of the building because it's up into the ceiling and in the attic, if you will. But it was a living space as well. You see all the marks on the wood, where the carpenters have been carving in, and it's just a great place. It's got such an amazing atmosphere.
But you've got a love for this place, haven't you, Chris? You've got a real love for this place. I know you said it to me when we were talking about where we were going to talk about it.
I was given the option of where to discuss today, and Full Green Hall was without a doubt, just didn't even think about it, straight away. Full Green Hall.
Which is amazing. It's lovely when you get that love for a place, and you can tell it in a lot of the groups I work with. Simply Ghost Night, you guys, Dust Till Dawn, the various they've all got a place that is in their heart that they adore, and they will do anything they can to protect it, to promote it, to make people aware of it, which is what I love, because I've got a few places like that as well that I can wax lyrical about and bore some people.
Exactly, yeah. And
but Ford Green has got an interesting history. The Ford family, like you say, it was built in 1624 for Hugh Ford, who was a yeoman dairy farmer.
That's right, yes.
Now, yeoman farmers, for anyone who doesn't realise, basically was kind of slightly below what we'd call the gentry, but they owned their own land and they farmed it.
That's right, they did, yeah.
Yeah, so they weren't serfs, they weren't the tenant farmers, so to speak. They owned their own land, so the money was in effect theirs, but they weren't gentry. And they were quite a well-to-do family who I have actually discovered their lineage back to the 1300s in the area.
Brilliant, yeah. 1300s.
There you go. So they're a well-known family. And that's quite interesting from a start. They were apparently for farming on that land from, say, about 1317. So they've got a lot of history there. But the building itself, it's obviously got different parts added to it. I believe there was a fire at some point in the early 1700s which destroyed some of the timber bit, so the brick bit was attached to it.
There is a report of smell of smoke within the parlour, but I'm pretty sure it's just residual from some of the items that came into the building. Pretty sure on that one. But as I said, I'm not 100% on history. I know the basics of locations, but I don't delve too deeply.
Yeah. No. Well, they say
the
history I did said there was a fire there, which was what happened in a lot of timber framed.
You can believe
buildings.
it. I can believe it.
And part of it was, and that's why some of the brick stuff went on. Yeah, so that did happen quite a lot in the 1700s. I mean, you only have to think about the Great Fire of London to know how easily buildings went up.
Yeah,
and they all had open fires. All of everything was done by fire, so it was a hazard. But so the building has got different eras attached to it.
It has, yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. You go. Yeah.
I was just going to say, because when it became a museum in 1950, Chris, obviously the creator, was saying to me that they were recommending the brick parts of the building, which were to be knocked down and removed, and just kept the timber frame. But it didn't go with that bit. I mean, Chris will probably correct me, but I think it was 17-something when those brick parts were built on, so they're still quite old themselves.
Oh yeah, they're not young.
No, not at all. But I think the council at the time, forgive me if it wasn't the council, but the powers that be went the recommendation of taking those down at the sides, and thankfully they didn't.
No,
because
thankfully.
they are very interesting areas.
It's a beautiful building, though. It is a beautiful building. And looking at the photos, and I found a few old photos from the 1940s of it before it was restored.
Yes, all it was all covered up, wasn't it? All the.
It was still beautiful, though. It was still an incredibly beautiful house. I wouldn't have minded if someone said, "Do you want to live here?" even before it was restored, if I'm completely honest. But what kind of, when you go into it, when you start, what kind of vibe does it give off?
It has a very friendly vibe, to be honest with you. There's nothing fearful about the building. It's got a warm glow feeling to it. Now, often when we go in as well, we're always told about the activity that's probably taken place, 30 minutes before we arrive. So we tend to get quite a lot of that. Like we're always told, "Oh, the spirits know you're coming," and they're hearing footsteps above them, because the volunteers, they stay downstairs in the cafe area, and they know that no one's upstairs, and they're hearing footsteps walking above them, and doors closing and stuff. So yeah, but like I say, it's a non-threatening building. When you go in, it's really nice. Really love it.
So, do you walk in as you first go in? Is it like a hall area that you go into with a staircase up from it? Is that?
Yeah, we first walk in and we're actually into a cafe.
Right.
Obviously, a former kitchen area. I'm back in the farmhouse, and you just turn right, and then all of a sudden you're into the Stuart period, and it's fascinating. It's just such a great place.
So, when you're investigating there, what rooms do you tend to do vigils in?
We use the whole building apart from the attic space,
right.
Apart from the cafe. So we've got the parlour, the hall, there's a kitchen area, and some other room which is set up as a museum now. So it's obviously an extension of the hall at one stage. And upstairs you've got there's 2 bedrooms, another parlour, and 2 more rooms at the back with some more staircase. Two sets of staircases actually, onto that level, and then there's a 3rd staircase taking to the attic.
Right.
And it's all decorated. It's not obviously how it was then. There's furniture, dotted around, all been brought in from other houses and such around the country. I can't tell you where they come from, but it's just got a great feel, and obviously residual energy is shining through from all these old bits of furniture around. It's just a great place. I'd recommend to everyone, give it a go. In regards,
it's actually not very expensive to go to, even as just a normal punter. That I think that I was looking up the ticket prices. It's a very reasonable cost. For
a couple of quid, yeah.
Literally, I think it was £9 for a family of 4 or something like that. It was, which is well, very reasonable for museums these days.
Yeah. And the one thing I do like about the building is all the profits go back to the building.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of places where the council owned, they might get a budget, so regardless of how much they make, they still only get a set budget of it. Whereas everything goes back to Fort Green Hall, and as high as the Fort Green Hall, I'm really proud that we're putting a lot of money into that building as well, and I think it's fantastic, and it's so worth all the time that we spend running the events there.
Yeah, brilliant. So you mentioned residual energy. There's a lot of residual stuff going on. What sort of things have you experienced?
Residual energy wise, we get a lot of sounds, and obviously I mentioned or touched on that smell of burning as well in the park, which can come through. So top knocks, bangs, pretty much same as you pretty much get anywhere at a haunted building, really.
Yeah. So have you had any clear communication from something that's interactive?
Well, we get a lot through Ouija boards, of course. We have had action with trigger objects moving, which we caught on camera. It's very interesting. We've got some glow-in-the-dark balls, which we've had, we were calling out, asking for that particular ball to move, and then it did, which is, got very excited, obviously, as you would do. And there's a lot of stories as well. No, we've not encountered it, but there used to be, obviously, as a yeoman's farm, there was a lot of spinning wheels there. Because it was a craft that they did. And there's stories where these spinning wheels will just turn very slowly in one direction, stop, and then turn all the way back again.
Really?
And that happened in front of because actually, like a lot of buildings, school children visit.
Yeah.
So they were doing a school talk. Chris, of course, was doing that one. And this wheel just did its move, and then afterwards they tried to recreate it. Was it the floorboards? Was he moved around? Did he bump into it or knock it? You just couldn't recreate it, which is what you try to do, isn't it? Once you get something, recreate. But they couldn't explain it. Also, one particular, as a cat lover myself, there's a spirit cat which is quite often seen running into rooms.
Oh,
It's clear as day. So the volunteers it's been reported that they go looking for this cat, but he's never in the room he just ran into, not under anywhere. So, we believe that it's a spirit cat, and we do get a lot of animals come through as well.
It's a farm. It's not unusual to.
With, dogs and cats mostly than anything else. So we get a lot of that, which is fascinating as an animal lover.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what's interesting about the Ford family is they have actually got links to some quite famous names.
They certainly have. Yeah,
one of them is actually, Josiah Wedgwood, who most people would probably realise Wedgwood pottery. Obviously, Stoke as an area, or Staffordshire as an area, has got it was the main pottery sort of capital of the UK, wasn't it?
It's called the potteries.
Yeah. So 1800s, with the amazing bottle kilns and all of that, which you can still see if you go up to the area. And some of there's a big museum that talks about the pottery industry. And
Glasgow kind of Pottery Museum. So that was on Most Haunted actually in the early days. So
we won't hold that against it.
No. They don't let everyone else know. They let Most Haunted in, but everyone else is shut out.
Oh, don't they do that to a lot of people, don't they? But Josiah Wedgwood, it's and I can't remember the link, but the Fords have got links to Josiah Wedgwood, who was also the grandfather of the origin of species person, Charles Darwin.
Certainly was.
And was also the grandfather to Charles Darwin's wife, who was Charles Darwin's first cousin, Emma Wedgwood.
That's it.
To be honest, they had a very happy marriage. They were married for like 50-odd years until he died. And she had 10 children by him. And she got married at the age of 30. So she motored to have 10 children, I tell you. But so yeah, it makes my eyes water. But the fact they had a very happy marriage and, say, 10 children, I think 7 of them survived infancy, 3 of them didn't, which is obviously quite common in that time. But you were telling me you had an interesting story about Josiah Wedgwood.
Well, yeah, because at Utruria Hall, actually, is his former home. He had a few homes, obviously, around the area, but Utruria Hall was an interesting one. So there's a report of the sales manager, because it's now a conference centre. Mm-hmm. So the sales manager went to show his daughter around the building, just to, show her where he worked. And his daughter just grabbed hold of his hand and started pulling on his sleeve and saying, "Daddy, can we go? Can we go?" But she didn't say why. She just wanted to leave. So as he took her out, she started breaking down into tears. She was a little bit afraid, obviously. And got down to the bottom of it, and she said she saw a little boy in a sailor suit just run down the corridor. But he looked 2D, so he doesn't like 3D. But there's a lot of photographs around Utruria Hall of the Wedgwood family, and there's particular photos as well of these are locked in rooms, so probably rooms that she wouldn't have seen. There was a lot of pictures down in the cellars, but not on the walls. And so one of these little boys particularly looks like the spirit that this little girl described. But there's a lot of stories with staff and also regarding Utruria Hall with the Wedgwood family. So it is a really interesting building, and it was built itself in 1764. Could be wrong, but it's around about that time.
So during his life, he built it then. Wedgwood built it himself. He commissioned it. Yeah. He
actually died in that building as well. So his bedroom is now a conference room. So the room just like died, people now go there and talk about figures. But,
who knows what they might have seen that they didn't realise.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, one of the parts of Ford Green that's recently been restored that you and I were talking about was the Dovecote.
Yeah, I've not yet had a chance to have a look in.
Right.
So hopefully shall do so with Chris's permission, of course.
Yeah, well, I found out some interesting information about, because most older houses from the sort of 1700s onwards seem to have these dovecotes, or they're also known as dopcots or colombières or pigeonnaires, and it got me wondering why, because it can't just have been they wanted doves to look pretty. These sort of houses were a bit more functional than that. Well, it transpires that a lot of them, they weren't necessarily for doves, they were more likely for pigeons. And it's because back in the 1700s, they used pigeons for food. It was seen as not elitist. It used to be elitist. It was only like royalty that could use it. But from about 1620, 1630 onwards, and I believe, and I might be wrong, your volunteer friend Chris will probably be able to correct me, but I believe the dovecote was built in the 1700s. They used to use them for meat, because they were quite easy to farm, shall we say, because they always returned. Yeah. They used the feathers for stuffing and for pillows and all of that kind of thing. But they actually also used the bird droppings. It was mixed with herbs to promote hair growth.
And there is a herb garden outside the dovecote,
which is very, very common. But it was the fact they used pigeon poo as a hair restorer.
Yeah, I didn't even react to that.
You didn't, did you? No, I thought he's either not listening. He's not listening to me. You already knew this. Yeah, pigeon poo.
I didn't know that, but I know that urine and poo and all sorts had many, many uses back in those days. Nothing was wasted. So so I didn't go. Yeah.
Pigeon poo was the 18th century version of Rogaine.
Lovely. I wouldn't like to try it.
Not really. Yeah. No, it didn't tell me what herbs they mixed it with, but they just said it was a belief that, well, they could say the article said bird droppings, but let's be honest, it's pigeon shit was used for hair restorer.
I wonder if it works.
I'm not trying it.
Yeah, it obviously didn't, because we're not doing it to this day. I don't know.
Exactly. Maybe we are. Maybe things like Regain and all of that kind of stuff has actually got bird droppings in it.
Oh yeah, we drink Red Bull, don't we? We all know what's in that.
Rather not. Know what's in it. It works. That's all I care. But yeah, so yeah, pigeon poo. That's one of the reasons they kept them, because they used the droppings for stuff.
That is wonderful. Yeah, that's really good. And the dovecote is a very, very it's a very interesting building on the land as well. It's a tall brick tower with a roof and holes in the brickwork, so obviously pigeons fly in. And there's a door at the bottom, but never been in.
Fascinating. No, it'd be interesting to see inside one, because I've seen inside some very, very large ones, and it's amazing the amount of what they call them, coops, I suppose, where the birds would go.
So,
yeah. You'll have to let me know what that's like when you go inside it.
Yeah, if Chris allows me to take photographs, I can pass these on to you as well, Penny.
I'm sure he will.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
So what's been your favourite experience at Fort Green?
Favourite experience at Fort Green Hall? Right, okay, so, well, we've been on edge a few times. I always like the calling out and waiting aspect of investigating or doing the event. Ouija boards are fun, and all the equipment, but there's nothing better than just sitting quiet, acting for spirit to come and interact with you, because that puts me on edge. So we've been sitting in one of these bedrooms and we've been calling out, and we were getting some series of taps to demand. I don't know, it sounds very, most haunted and stuff, but, the 2 taps for yes and the 1 tap for no. Mm-hmm. But we were actually getting good results from that. And so for me, that was interesting, because I've been there so many times that I know it's not the natural movement of the building or natural sounds from the building. Yeah. Because, experience tells me that's not normal. And like I say, I trust my team fully. And if my team say that the other group aren't, replying with those taps and bangs, then, I'm going to trust them. I'm going to take their word for it. So, yeah, we tried to recreate it, and we were watching everyone in the room closely. It wasn't in total darkness, but the taps weren't coming from a single direction. They were coming from different parts of the room, one bit behind me and then in front of me, or from the door, from the centre of the room. It was really, really interesting. So for me, I always try and recreate that when we go. But as you know, when it can't be done.
Yeah, they don't play
try.
on demand, do they?
No, they don't at all. So it'd be great if we could get that again. But I will keep trying. You've got to be there to try, haven't you?
So when are you next back?
For Green Hall, we are not there in October, but we are there in November 17th.
Right.
16th, of November, sold out. And then we've got the December the 7th.
Yeah.
21st, again, sold out. And we've got 2 dates in January as well coming up, which are very nearly sold out. So it sells really well for us. It's a very, very popular location once again. And a lot of people come back again and again. So we always see the same faces at the same venue.
Yeah. So they obviously feel the same affinity to it that you do.
They do, yeah. It's a great night, and because we charge £29 as well for it, we take a maximum of 6 groups. So there's 8 per group, and we can subdivide as well into 2 groups of 4. So it's really personal as well. It's not one of those. Crowded, isn't it? Yeah. So it's a great place, and people do love it. I love it. The team loves it.
I can tell by the way you're talking about it. So if anyone wants to get in touch with Haunted Houses, how do they go about doing it, Chris?
Well, they can go on the website, which is www.haunted-houses.co.uk, or if they want to send me an email, do so at info@haunted-houses.co.uk, or give me a telephone call, have a chat. Don't do it here in a rush because I'm quite a chatterbox.
You and me both do this. We've probably worked out since we've been chatting. Yeah,
that's it. And as I was explaining to yourself today, I'm a little bit drony today because literally had 3 hours sleep after last night's ghost hunt in Stratford-upon-Avon. And so, but if catch me when I'm wide awake, my telephone number, if anyone wants to give us a call, is 01782 951 747.
And you've got your Facebook page as well that they can...
We certainly have Haunted Houses at Ghost Hunting events. Come along and see what we do.
Yeah.
Take a look at our reviews, because I always think, obviously, I can say what I want about the company. I'm going to be biased, but it's always the reviews, obviously, which tell the true story. So, same for all companies with, great reputations. Always check the reviews first of all.
Yep. Well, we'll share all those. We'll share the website link and the Facebook link on the Parasearch page after the show. So anyone who is listening, because they've listened to Parasearch before, you can find the links on there to go and check out Christopher's group. No, I'm not angry with you. It just sounds posh saying that, doesn't it?
You know what? There's a reason why I call myself Christopher, and I'm not open with anyone. I used to send emails, and my name was Chris Chell, and then when I used to speak on the phone, they were shocked I was actually a bloke. They were expecting Christine to be on the line. So I've now destroyed that, and it's now Christmas. So they know what they're going to get.
That's quite funny. I like
I'm
that.
A man.
But if anyone wants to...
a female role, I don't know.
Oh, well, nothing wrong with embracing your femininity, Mr. Chell. Nothing wrong with that at all.
You know what? I'm queen for that, I tell you.
Well, anyone who wants to get in touch with Chris and the Haunted Houses lot, please do so. He's very approachable. He's very easy to talk to. And I'd just like to say thank you so much for trusting me and coming on the show. Chris, I hope it's not been too painful.
You know what? It's been wonderful. And you asked me before. I was a little bit shy, wasn't I? And
you
were.
No, I don't want to do it. You just came back and said, no, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, why? Why not? It's fun. So thanks.
It's great fun, yeah.
Good. Well, thank you ever so much for coming on. Obviously, anyone who does want to catch up with what Haunted Houses are doing, go and check out their Facebook page, go and check out their website, and you never know, you might see me on one of the investigations at some point, because I'm even being given a bed to sleep on. So so that I can go.
She's got a room. Yeah.
Anyone would think they want me to come on them? Fools. But don't forget, Parasearch Radio shows on 5 nights of the week, although we have got some new ones starting soon. If you want to catch up with anything we've done, go on Spreaker, go on YouTube. We're on both of those. But until next week, have a good evening, sleep tight, And don't worry too much about things that go bump in the night.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.